They had been homeless. They had been saving up. They'd been living in their car. They've been really consistent with it. And they just reached out to me to buy an investment property. We can help people find their second, third house all day long. But whenever you go from homeless to buying a house, or from renting your whole life to buying a house, it is life-changing.
Wow, to see where they started to where they are now is pretty incredible. What do you attribute that to?
The Den, powered by the Lions Group, a show that explores trending topics in real estate, entrepreneurship, and personal growth. We're a small team of professionals with over $400 million in sales and nearly 2,000 successful transactions. You're listening to time-tested experts and industry leaders. Here's a refreshing look at real estate happenings and more. Welcome to The Den.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of The Den. Today, we're going to be talking about winning in real estate and some of the big wins that we've seen over the years. But before I get to that, let me introduce my friends, my partners, my co-hosts, the fellow members of the Lions Group. To my right, Paul, Hammy the Rock Berry, Aspen the Ninja Gruen, and the boss, Shannon Martin Martinez. My name is Ben Winning Lions. Remember the old Charlie Sheen thing?
Winning. That was for you? Oh, man.
Come on, Paul. Those interviews with did you see that, Aspen? Oh, my gosh. Charlie Sheen was out of his
Tiger's
mind.
Blood
he was like, you remember that, Shannon?
Yeah,
he was like
I do.
partying, like he was on a thing for like a month at a time.
He had some issues.
And then they went and interviewed him one-on-one. And she's like, are you sure you're not on any drugs right now? And he's like, I'm winning. And if you find some in this house, then we'll have some fun. Or something like that. And we were like, everyone was like watching it like, whoa, this guy. So anyways, Ben Winning Lions kicks us off today. And no, I'm not on a bender. Just a little bit of caffeine. So, but we've had some great stories over the years, some success stories with real estate. I think it's important to share some of those because how many times do you actually see people succeed in things and really kind of get a tangible story from it? It's fun to hear that. So Paul, I'm going to kick it off with you. And I want you to share maybe a story or two or three, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
He's got his notes ready, people.
No, I don't. So you're asking about people that have either made a lot of money or have done well? Or
well, yeah. They've achieved their goals. They bought their dream home. They've financially been...
Well, there's a couple of families that I can think of, and she actually became a realtor because either I made it look so easy or I was so bad she thought she could do it better. But it's Erica Dunn, and she's a local realtor here. But I helped them buy some of their first rental properties. They had some really big goals to get like 50 doors by the end of the year, and it was 2020, and it was... The market was a little bit different. They were able to buy up some stuff pretty quick. Then the market shifted and everything got expensive. So, but since they've gotten, I think they're close to their goal, and they've done very, very well. And like I said, she's a realtor now. She's starting off. I think it's been a little bit slow, but she's catching her stride. Yeah. There's another family that I've sold. I was just thinking about it today. We're closing on their 7th property on Wednesday.
Wow. That's awesome.
And they've done some cool things. That was my first, it was $5,000 short of $1 million. So it was the first house that happened. They've done very well. And I've watched their business grow. Wait, I forgot one. 8.
8. Wow.
8 deals.
Holy cow.
Yeah. So.
And so what did they just start out like saying were these all primary residences or were they investment properties or
so they
give us some more details, Paul.
So they started out with, not to give everybody names, but they own a company that does very well, has a few locations here and in Gallup. They had a couple rental houses for their employees in Gallup, but what they started doing was selling those off and then buying up rental properties. They didn't want to do flips or anything like that. So they would just buy rental properties and they decided to stop doing that. And they just kept upgrading their homes every couple of years. I've only been doing this 8 years and I've sold each of them a few times.
Wow. And so that their first sale is how you met them. And that was their primary residence, right?
Yeah, and you gave me that.
That's right. That was north of Aztec, if I remember right. Okay. Yeah, great family.
Yeah.
And they've done some wonderful things. So that all started there, because I remember having the conversation when she was first looking. She didn't even understand, the financing components. I mean, very sharp girl, but at the time that she was brand new, like, to the real estate world, right? And
she was brand new to life.
Yeah.
She was
pretty
like
young.
20, early 20s.
Yeah. And so, but she's asking all the right questions. And wow, to see where they started to where they are now is pretty incredible. What do you attribute that to?
The parents of that family have taught them the value of money, how to do things. They've not given them everything. They've made them work for what they're doing. They've taught them how certain things, or how to use money to their advantage, how to use financing to their advantage. So it's been really interesting to see. Those are the success stories. They understand things differently than most people. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Well, explain that a little bit more. They look at things a little bit differently.
Yeah, they look at not even the long term, but they look at how this asset that they're buying is going to fit into their portfolio, their life, their plans for the future. Because sometimes they would say, we're going to hold on to this for 6, 7, 8 years, sell it, and then start go on to the next thing. But it's been interesting to see how they've paid off. That's the other thing. These guys are buying large homes and paying them off in 4 or 5 years.
So they have kind of a multifaceted, they've got a business that they've built, but also real estate, because something has to feed that real estate, right? You can't just go out and, most people can't just go out and buy real estate without any money, right? So they have this two-pronged approach where you've got real estate as one leg and a business as another.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Ben Lyons, a partner at the Lyons Group. We're dedicated to making your real estate experience the best it can be. If you're looking to buy or sell, go to sjcbroker.com and watch our informational video series. These videos break down the process and shed some light on buying or selling. While you're there, schedule a private consultation with one of our partners. We'd love to sit down, talk strategy, and give you a real advantage in today's market. You deserve the best. So take those steps, and we'll see you soon. Now back to the show.
I like the holistic, like they're really kind of looking at the holistic picture. Like, does this piece of property fit in with our overall plan, including the business side of things?
And that's one of the big things. Does it make sense with everything else we have? So they don't want all of these great properties and then buy a turd.
There's really something to be said about doing it slowly and doing it the right way, because it really does pick up momentum and it gets easier. But if you're just going, and then you get one bad deal, all that growth can just be wiped away because you were trying to do it too fast. There really is something to be said about just doing it slow and consistent, and if it doesn't work, not trying to force that puzzle piece to fit.
Yeah. Being very conscientious of that, building a strong foundation, because you don't want to build a house of cards.
Yep.
And this is about big wins, but I do want to share a story of one that happened to me where they were going through and just buying properties left and right. I mean, they could buy every property that they could. This was like 5-6 years ago. And there was not a lot of thought put into it. Like, if they were able to buy it, they just did it. And so I remember we closed on one house, and then, I think it was 6 weeks later, they called and said, well, the sewer lines are, not working. The septic failed and everything else. And I said, well, it was a foreclosure and you waived all of that. Remember we talked about that? And no, I never. And I said, well, yes, we did. We had a conversation about it. And, I pulled up the conversation because we do a lot of stuff over email. And then it was, oh goodness. Now, so I could imagine with how many properties they bought that was similar, and that will really kill your momentum. So good point, Aspen. And to build on that, do you want to share a success story or some clients that have you've seen really rock and roll over the years?
Sure. So I was kind of thinking first along the veins of Paul is like people who's made a lot of money or like has gotten a ton. But the best deal I ever did was one of the smaller houses I've ever done. It was these people that were coming and they were buying their first house, and they had 2 kids, and we looked for a long time. It was kind of during the COVID time where stuff was just going so quickly. We got the deal, got it all done, got it closed. And we ended up having to close not at the title company because they wanted to close that weekend and they had to get in. Like, it was just that you could tell they were really, really excited and wanted to get into the house. And a lot of first time home buyers are like that. They don't want to wait another weekend. They want to get it done right there. So we ended up closing with another notary at night. We got over to the house at like 9:30 and they're just bawling. I didn't know this, but they had been homeless. They had been saving up. They'd been living in their car.
Wow.
And I didn't know any of this. And then I'm bawling. And now so this was, a few years ago, and they've kept up with the house. They've been really consistent with it. And they just reached out to me to buy an investment property.
That is incredible.
So that's my favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Favorite deal I've ever done.
That's fantastic. And we talk about big wins, like you correlate like a big payday or whatever else. Like, to them, that was earth shattering. That was monumental.
And life-changing.
Life-changing.
Completely changed your life.
I had another one during COVID. I feel like COVID was kind of the displacement for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Some people I was working with wanted to sell their rental property. There was tenants in the rental property, and they wanted me to help them find another rental. I was like, let's just find you a house you can buy in, because they thought, you had to have 20% down and you had to have all of these things. And I was like, no, like, you can get into it basically for the price of rental. They had good, consistent jobs and they just didn't know. So we sold that rental property, found them a house one street over because they loved their neighborhood. And the house that they found was a pre-foreclosure. So those people were able to get out of it. So I'm like, that's whenever you really feel like it feels good to do that kind of thing, because we can help people find their second, third house all day long. But whenever you go from homeless to buying a house, or from renting your whole life to buying a house, it is life-changing.
It is
and it's
surprising.
life-changing for your kids generationally.
It is surprising how many people don't realize that they can be a homeowner with not traditionally what they think they're going to need.
Almost for what the price of a rental is nowadays.
Right. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. Yeah, it's expensive to rent.
When you need first, last, security deposit, pet deposit, all of these things, can be just as expensive to rent.
Right.
Yeah. And being wealthy with the big wins is not just about money. In fact, I had a conversation with my oldest daughter on our way to middle school, and we were talking about this just the other day. And we were talking about the difference of financial wealth and then emotional wealth and relationship, having wealthy relationships, and having wealth with your health and all these other things. And this just plays in. I mean, again, I can't reiterate enough. The wins are awesome with financial, right? The financial side, but gosh, just the emotional win that those people had, in their lives, from where they came from to buying a home, that was such a monumental moment for them and has changed their lives. I guarantee it. I mean, I'm sure you've seen it firsthand. So,
and the sweetest people, I'm so happy for them, but it's just crazy. And the work that they had to put in before I even stepped in to get involved.
Yeah.
They just had to have done a lot of work to get themselves to that position.
Yeah. Well, that is awesome to hear. In fact, we've got some good friends that I was going to share a little bit about. They've bought and sold 10 times with me over the years, and every time that they do, it's so easy for them, and they make money on their purchases. And it's been one of those things that have just continued to propel them into the next step of life. And they would have never been at the point that they are without having made those moves years ago. And so I just say that to say this is never too late. Always try to make those moves, because then things just they speed up, right? They get quicker. But they've just been consistently.
Yeah. And people really discount, slow and steady wins the race. People seem to think if you're going to get rich in real estate, you need to just, buy a bunch of properties. Even having one or two properties and doing well on them or holding them long term, there's a lot of gains that could be made, life-changing gains. I mean, enough that you could really, pay off the primary residence that you're living on if you sold it, and be free of that, or, have enough to turn around to do something else with. You don't have to do $1 million houses to make big changes in your financial situation with real estate.
Yep. And you've seen that as well. And all of a sudden, like if you have an investment property or something, or your primary residence, and you've been thinking along this channel for many, many years, and all of a sudden an opportunity opens up and you're like, okay, how can I take advantage of this opportunity? And you can look around and you go, oh, I've got this property that I've never thought about selling. All of a sudden I can sell it and roll it into this. Yeah. All of a sudden all these options become, a lot more clear. And
when we can start leading people to making good decisions, I think that's one of the best rewards about what we do, is when we're showing people how they can make that happen, how they can do that. I have a young lady, that I've worked with for quite a few years, and she was a financial planner, and she was actually a realtor. I think you know who she is, financial planner, and she was a realtor. She did real estate while she was going to college, and she just made really good decisions. So over the years, she only did real estate for a short while, but I've been her long-term realtor. She's made really good decisions. She would buy, a small foreclosure, something that was, really kind of a little dog. And she would, do the work herself and work on, like retiling and, redoing a bathroom and redoing these things. And then, maybe a year or two later, she'd buy like another little foreclosure. And, she was kind of slow and steady doing that. She ended up buying a duplex and lived in one side, and the other side was, paid for the mortgage. So she was able to, have her housing paid for. Eventually bought another house for her, which was a foreclosure, did some great work. She worked really hard on, because she's a financial planner, she's very smart, making payments differently so that she could pay down interest faster, things of that nature. I'll tell you, in the last couple of years, we have sold off all of her rentals. She's living in her only house, which I believe at this point she's free and clear on. She has benefited so well from this. And here she is, really, and I believe honestly, she's just in her early 40s, but she's already, been able to move out of the corporate life. She works from home. She does just some consulting type work, and she has sold off her properties, and she's basically got hers paid for and is really financially well off. She made all the right moves. Mm-hmm. She didn't try to overdo anything. She didn't overextend herself. She didn't try to buy the flashy properties. She just made good decisions. And that's really rewarding. That's really rewarding when you can walk through someone like that. And she may never need me again now because, she's doing good, and she doesn't want to be doing in the married anymore. Yeah, I could do other things for her.
Honey.
I could do other things for her.
It's crazy though. We're all saying is someone made the decision.
Yeah.
You have to make a decision, because you see a lot of times people being like, well, I just need to wait. I'm just waiting. I need to save up more. I want to put the 20% down so I don't have to do PMI. And I was just talking to Ben the other day about this. I'm like, one thing I feel like most successful people have, they make a decision. Because if you make a decision quickly, you can pivot and say, oh, this actually isn't working. Let's do something else. And then you make another decision.
But if quickly, you never get your feet wet,
if you never make
you don't have a chance.
You're 3 decisions behind the person who already said, oh, I already figured out this doesn't work.
Right.
Versus you take 6 years to make the decision. Mm-hmm. And now it's never too late, but you have to just do it.
Yeah, sometimes that decision could just be picking up the phone and calling you and saying, hey, I feel like I want to do these things. What do I need to do to get started? Yep. Maybe get started starts that day. Maybe get started just starts with saving, and it's a year down the line. Yeah. But yeah, you're right. You're always going to be a couple decisions behind if you don't just start.
Yeah, just make a decision. Mm-hmm. If it's the wrong one, then pivot and make a different one. I think people really overthink, which I think you should put a lot of thought into purchasing something. But you start with, your first house. You make a good decision, and maybe 2 years later you sell it and you buy a little bit bigger house, or you keep that one as your investment property or something. And then just slowly making these decisions helps you be able to make bigger and faster decisions than if you are just waiting because you want to buy your dream house for your first house.
Right.
And house prices just keep going up, and that dream just keeps getting pushed further and further.
Right.
And that's not to say jump in and make a quick decision and force that piece to work, because I'm big, if it's not working, you probably shouldn't force it to work.
Right.
Yeah. But a lot of people get analysis paralysis, and then they get, they're thinking about stuff so much, and then they don't ever take any action. And that's what you're saying, is that you got to take some action. Even if it's the wrong action, you can always pivot. But the people that really do well seem to be taking action consistently. It's kind of like you in the newsletter. It's like consistent action.
Very, very consistent.
Action.
And here you are with the #1 newsletter in America.
Yeah. I mean, I think
Really?
Yeah.
Just because you kept trying.
As voted by your peers.
Yeah.
So do you think that the success in real estate is more about timing? Is it about just making a decision and jumping in? What are some of the common traits that you would see that people do that are successful in real estate?
I think doing research ahead of time is not a bad thing. There is a lot of analysis paralysis out there, but not so much on the investment side. I know people have their number that they're looking for, whether it's cash flow, cap rate, any of those numbers. Most investors will do their math real quick and say yes or no. So I don't usually see it on the investment side. On the residential side, or buying your first home, I see it all the time. They get sticker shock over the monthly payment, and I just got told yesterday, well, we're scared of this adulting thing. This is too big for us.
Right.
Spoiler, so am I.
Yeah, we're gonna hold off for a while and stick with what we've got. But I think those people that have a reason, being homeless is a good reason to buy a house. But those people that have a reason to move, to better themselves, or to take the next step in the financial planning that they're doing, those are the people that are going to make decisions quicker. The people that have no reason to do it just because they want to, or they're window shopping, those are the people that, will never make that decision.
Complacency is a killer. I mean, it really is. If you're just comfortable with your life and you never want to do anything different, then you never get to experience the rewards of growing yourself. I mean, they say all growth happens outside your comfort zone. And so you have to take those steps that are a little bit uncomfortable and just start with a little bit. And then you see that starts to parlay into other things. But we've seen over the years, the vast majority of people, correct me if I'm wrong, partners, but the vast majority of people that we work with that are in real estate, have bought real estate, own real estate, have done really well. Have done well for themselves. I mean, we do have a small percentage that timing was terrible, life circumstances, things like that happen. Life happens, and they've had to, couldn't hold on to that asset, or had to liquidate at a loss, or maybe affected them that way. But gosh, that's really the small.
Yeah, that's not the normal story.
That's not the normal story, is it?
But that's the one you hear all the time. I was underwater. I took a loss on that house. And I think that's what scares a lot of people away. When the prices are high, and we even give them a form like, hey, be scared, market advisory. You're buying high, and it may not stay, the value may not stay there. So I think some of those things, the bad stories are the ones that get the most circulation.
Yeah. If people walk in it realizing it's a long game, sometimes you have cases where you buy one and you put money in and you flip it and you can make money. And, but most places you're buying these days, you're buying at market value. But if you're looking at the long game, like I'm going to hold it as a rental for 10 years and then, sell it for retirement or something, it's always going to be worth more in the future if you're caring for it. Barring that you're selling now in a bubble or, a market crash, you just keep yourself in a position where you don't have to sell during that time,
Yeah. If you hold on to the long-term game, because any one of us in this room would give a lot to go back 20 years and buy.
Absolutely.
Even 10 years. Even
knowing what I know now,
years.
what prices are. Yeah.
5 years. I mean, so if you're on the fence and you're thinking about getting in the game, that's the thing, is like, just get in the game. Because we are seeing, and we will continue to see, real estate, when they say is one of the best ways to build wealth, they are not kidding, because it just happens. And those are big wins. In fact, but I think a mindset and mentality is a big thing too, because I do want to share a situation that happened that was the opposite of a big win. I should say this, it was a big win, but it's kind of it wasn't taken as a big win. I worked with a family that bought a property, and within just a couple of years, they sold the property. and made over 6 figures in like 2 years. It was an incredible win. It was one of the biggest profits that I've seen from just a normal family going and buying a property in probably 10 years. But what had happened was they started way higher on the price point, and the selling process became, more arduous for them. They were spending money in their mind where the market hadn't told them that they could spend that money yet. And so a very big win became something that was a process that dismayed them. So I think mentality, because I kept reinforcing to them, look, you are doing wonderful.
The fact that they made money at all in 2 years.
2 years.
Is a win.
Yeah.
Let alone
6 figures.
6 figures. Yeah.
And so the process and their mentality about it dismayed them. And it was really unfortunate because it was such a big win.
Yeah.
And
we probably have to have a whole podcast on how to tell sellers, when you price it at this and you sell it at this, you didn't lose money.
You didn't lose me. There was no money there.
That wasn't money.
Yeah, that was blue. We call that blue sky.
We're just finding the market.
That was hope. That was hope and a prayer.
Yeah. Well, let's jump into the speed round real quick. And Aspen, I'm going to kick it off with you. What is the number one trait with people that you see that hit it big in real estate, that do well in real estate? What's the number one trait?
They make a decision. That's really it. And that decision could be, oh, this isn't a good deal. I need to not do this, because then you're not getting those huge losses. I'm very open about how real estate has changed my life. Not selling real estate, that has, but I mean owning real estate. And I talk loudly about it, especially to women and younger women. I'm like, this is something that most guys have been ingrained with. Like, you can do this too. So I've been very vocal about it. And so many people, not just women, but a lot of women, talk to me about like, okay, I want to buy my first investment property. How do I and I will have this conversation with them into the ground. And I'm like, I'm your biggest supporter. Like, I'll help you make a right decision where you're not going to hopefully be underwater, because I've done it once or twice. And people just don't make the decision to actually do it or actually start the process. It's kind of this like dream that they have. Just make the decision, and you might find out it's not for you, and that's okay. At least you tried.
At least you took those steps.
Yeah.
Great answer, Paul. Number one trait, people that hit it big in real estate, what is that trait in your opinion?
I think they have a plan. Because if you're just buying something to buy something, it might not fit into what your goal is. But if you have goals in mind, and part of getting to your goal is to buy real estate, those are the people that will make the decision really quickly. They say either this is a good deal or not. So yeah, having a plan and using real estate to fit in there, they're the ones that usually have the most success.
Having a holistic view of your strategy, and then that's a piece of it. Is that what you're saying?
Sure.
Yep. I like that. That sounds good. Good job, Paul.
Thank you.
Yep. Shannon, number one trait.
Well, I was going to say consistency. I would probably join with what Paul said. I think it's about just being realistic and making a plan and following through with it. And if you stick to what you're wanting to do, instead of getting hesitant and I'm going to sell early because of this, or I'm going to improve this because of this reason, make a plan, follow through with it, and at the end of it, you're probably going to be successful. You're probably going to make some money.
Yeah.
And keep doing it. If you keep doing it and you take that money you make and you make some more money with it, you just can keep building that wealth and turning it into more and more wealth.
So yours is consistency then.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we have action, we have make it part of a strategy, and we have consistency. All three great things, and I would agree with all of them. I think they're all important. I think the number one trait for me is that you can think about stuff all the time, but you have to take and make decisions and move forward, because the analysis paralysis is real. I mean, you can consider buying and you really wish you were buying and you would hope that you buy, but until you actually take the steps to buy, it's just a dream. And that's the universe's language, is action. So thought takes you so far. and then action is the next step. So that would be my number one thing is you just have to get in the game and make a decision, but you do have to do it with a strategy and you have to be consistent with it. And I think that those are the important things. So fascinating conversation about big wins in real estate. And hopefully our viewers can take away some thoughts that would, if you're not in the game, to get into the game, or if you are in the game, you're doing the right things, then we're sharing with you the stories and the successes that we're seeing. So you're on the right track. Keep doing those great things. So if you like our content, please go and give us a great comment. A 5-star review would be wonderful. You can also go to sjcbroker.com and schedule a private consultation with any one of us here at the Lions Group. We'd love to sit down with you, talk with you about buying or selling, residential or commercial, and give you an advantage in today's market. So thank you for listening to this episode of The Den. Until next time, we'll see you then.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Den, powered by the Lions Group. Hit the subscribe button to keep informed and check the show notes below for direct links to our buyer and seller video series. The buyer and seller video series can give you an inside track on taking the right steps in real estate. If you'd like to learn more about the Lions Group or to schedule a consultation, go to sjcbroker.com. Complex markets require complex strategies. The Lions Group can give you a true advantage in any market. Whether you're buying or selling, residential or commercial, contact us directly at sjcbroker.com. We're time-tested experts with a client-first approach, and we'll see you next time in the Den.